There was a woman who came to my consulting room in Zurich many winters ago. She sat down, folded her hands in her lap, and told me she had wasted her life. She was 43 years old. She had been searching, she said, for something she could not name. A book she had once seen in a shop window but never bought. A man she had loved at 20 and never spoken to again. A road she had glimpsed from a train and never walked down. Everything she truly wanted, she believed, had passed her by. And now she sat before me, certain that the door had closed forever. I listened to her for a long time. I did not interrupt. And when she had finished, I said only one thing. I told her that the soul does not keep the same clock as the world. I told her that what is meant for her has not been lost in the past. It has been waiting patiently in the shape of her own life for the hour when she would finally be ready to receive it. She looked at me as though I had spoken in a foreign tongue, and in a way I had, for the language of the unconscious is not a language of urgency. It is not the language of deadlines or of opportunities seized and missed. It is the language of seasons, of slow ripening, of dreams that return again and again until we finally turn our heads to listen. The psyche, you must understand, is not in a hurry. The psyche is older than your fears. The psyche knows what you do not yet know, that nothing of true significance can arrive before you are prepared to recognize it. And so I want to speak with you tonight about a quiet and terrible truth. A truth that the modern world has done everything in its power to bury beneath the noise of its clocks and its calendars, its productivity systems, and its endless self-improvement. I want to speak to you about the strange, secret law by which the soul lives. The law that says, asterisk, what is yours will find you, but only when you are ready to be found, asterisk. The ancients understood this. They called it asterisk, kairos, asterisk. The right moment, the appointed hour, distinct from asterisk, chronos, asterisk, which is the relentless ticking of ordinary time. Chronos is the time of the wristwatch. Kairos is the time of the soul. And one of the great wounds of our age is that we have lost the ability to distinguish between them. We measure our entire lives in chronos, in years past, in birthdays accumulated, in milestones missed, while the deeper rhythm of kairos goes unheard, unhonored, unlived. We grow anxious because we are 40 and not yet what we hope to be at 30. We despair because we are 60 and have not done what we promised ourselves at 40. We compare our lives to imaginary timetables and we suffer, but the soul does not suffer this comparison. The soul in its wisdom has its own seasons. There is a winter of the psyche and there is a spring, and they cannot be rushed. The alchemists, those strange and brilliant men who I studied for so many years, knew this perhaps better than anyone. They understood that the asterisk, prima materia asterisk, the raw, dark, unrefined substance of the soul could not be transformed by force. It could not be hurried. It had to pass through asterisk, nigredo asterisk, the blackening, the long darkness in which everything we thought we were is dissolved. Only then could asterisks, albedo asterisks arrive, the whitening, the dawn of new awareness. And only after that, asterisks, rubido asterisks, the reddening, the full incarnation of the self. This is not a process that can be accelerated by willpower. It cannot be hacked. It cannot be optimized. It unfolds according to a law older than reason itself. And here is what most people overlook. Here is the detail that hides in plain sight, waiting for you to see it. What you have been chasing all these years, the person, the calling, the truth, the home, the peace, has not been refusing you. It has been waiting for the version of you that can actually hold it. Do you understand what I am saying? The thing you long for cannot enter a house that is not yet ready to receive it. And so it stands at the threshold of your life, patient as a stone, until the room within you is finally prepared. I observed this pattern in my patients for over 50 years. I watched men in their middle age weep over choices they had made at 20, choices that had seemed at the time like catastrophes, and then slowly, painfully, with the help of the unconscious, they began to see that those very choices had carved out the shape of their soul. The marriage that ended, the job they did not get, the opportunity they let slip away. Each of these, examined in the dim light of the deeper psyche, revealed itself to be not a failure of timing, but an act of mysterious precision. Something had been protecting them. Something had been preparing them. Something that knew them better than they knew themselves. This is the meaning of what I came to call asterisk synchronicity asterisk, that strange and acausal connection between the inner world and the outer world. When the psyche is ready, the world arranges itself accordingly. A book falls from a shelf. A stranger speaks the exact sentence you needed to hear. A door that was closed for decades suddenly opens. These are not coincidences in the trivial sense. They are the visible footprints of a deeper order, an order that knows the precise hour in which each soul must encounter each truth. But the most disturbing part is yet to come, for this same law that protects us also wounds us. The same intelligence that ensures nothing arrives before its time also ensures that we will spend much of our lives feeling forsaken, feeling forgotten, feeling as though life has overlooked us, because the soul's timing is not kind to the ego. The ego wants what it wants now. The ego measures, demands, compares, and when life refuses to obey the ego's schedule, the ego concludes that life has failed. But it has not failed. It has simply refused to be reduced to the ego's small understanding of what is good and when it should arrive. I want you to consider for a moment all the things in your life that did not happen when you wanted them to happen. The love that came too late, or perhaps not yet at all. The recognition you sought but did not receive. The healing you prayed for that took years longer than it should have. The clarity that arrived only after a long and bewildering darkness. Now consider, and this is difficult, I know, what you became during those waiting years. What was forged in you, what was burned away. What grew quietly underground in the soil of your apparent suffering that you could not have grown otherwise. The mystics of every tradition have hinted at this. The Sufis spoke of the polishing of the heart, a slow, gradual abrasion by which the mirror of the soul becomes clear enough to reflect the divine. The Buddhists spoke of ripening, the way understanding cannot be transmitted, only earned through the long fermentation of experience. The Taoists spoke of asterisk, wu wei, asterisk, non-forcing, the wisdom of allowing things to arrive in their own time, like a fruit that falls when it is ready and not a moment before. And the Christian mystics, especially those of the Rhineland, spoke of the soul as a chamber that God enters only when it has been emptied of everything else. They all knew what we have forgotten. They all knew that the great encounters of a human life are not arranged by the will. They are arranged by readiness. And what is readiness? This is the question I want you to sit with. Readiness is not preparation in the worldly sense. It is not the completion of a checklist. It is not the achievement of a certain number of accomplishments. Readiness is something far stranger and far more difficult. Readiness is the moment when you have suffered enough of your own illusions to be capable of recognizing the truth when it appears. Readiness is the moment when your shadow no longer terrifies you so completely that you flee from anything that touches it. Readiness is the moment when you have stopped trying to force the river of your life into the narrow channel of your ambition and have begun at last to follow where it actually flows. There was a young man I once worked with who could not understand why love had eluded him. He was intelligent, handsome, accomplished. He had every external quality that should have made him desirable. And yet every relationship ended in the same painful pattern. He came to me in despair. He believed there was something fundamentally broken in him. He wanted me to fix him so that he could finally find what he was looking for. But as we worked together, slowly, over many months, something else came into focus. He had been carrying, since childhood, an unconscious image of his mother, an idealized image, frozen, perfect, untouched by the complications of real human womanhood. And every woman he had ever loved had been measured, without his knowing it, against this impossible figure. None could compete, none could survive the comparison, until he was willing to descend into the dark room of his own psyche and meet the actual woman who lived there, his Anima, in all her complexity, her shadow as well as her light. He could not meet any real woman at all. The world had not been withholding love from him. The world had been protecting him from a love he was not yet capable of sustaining. This is the law I am trying to describe to you. The law of kairos, the law of inner readiness. The law that says nothing arrives until you can hold it without destroying it, and nothing is withheld except what would destroy you to receive prematurely. Here begins the darkest game of the unconscious. For there is something in us, something deep, ancient, wiser than we are, that conspires both for our development and against our comfort. It will let us suffer, if suffering is what we require. It will let us wait for years in apparent emptiness, if waiting is what shapes us. It will withhold the very thing we most desire, not out of cruelty, but out of a fierce and patient love. The unconscious is not your enemy, but it is not your servant either. It is something more like a master teacher who knows the curriculum of your particular soul and who will not be hurried into giving you the final lesson before you have absorbed the earlier ones. And so the question is not, why hasn't it happened yet? The question is, what is being prepared in me that I might be ready when it does? These are two entirely different questions. The first is the question of the ego, and it leads only to bitterness. The second is the question of the soul, and it leads to transformation. The first looks outward, complaining at the apparent injustice of the world. The second looks inward, listening for the slow turning of one's own becoming. I have watched in my long practice what happens when a person finally makes this shift. It is one of the most moving things I have witnessed in this life. A person who has been struggling for years against the timing of their own existence, fighting, despairing, raging, suddenly grows quiet. Something settles in them. They begin to live in their actual life, rather than in the imagined life that was supposed to have arrived by now. And it is precisely in this surrender, in this acceptance of the soul's own clock, that the things they had been chasing finally begin to arrive, not because they have stopped wanting them, but because they have finally stopped distorting themselves in order to obtain them. Modern man has forgotten this entirely. We live in an age that has declared war on patience. Everything must be instant. Everything must be optimized. Every desire must be satisfied within the hour, or else we conclude that the system has failed. We can have a meal delivered in 20 minutes, a partner selected with a swipe, a piece of information retrieved in a second. And we have come to believe, without realizing it, that our inner lives should operate by the same logic, that self-discovery should be efficient, that healing should be on a schedule, that meaning should appear like a package on the day we ordered it. But the soul is not a package. The soul is a slow-growing tree, and no amount of pulling on its branches will make it bear fruit before the season has come. This is, I believe, one of the deepest causes of the suffering of our time. Not poverty, though there is poverty. Not violence, though there is violence. But a profound, almost unbearable impatience with our own becoming. A refusal to accept that the most important things in a human life cannot be hurried. We grow ashamed of being where we are. We grow ashamed of not yet being where we think we should be. And in this shame, we lose touch with the very process that is trying to ripen us. We tear ourselves out of the ground to inspect our own roots, and then we wonder why we are not growing. But the most surprising part is yet to come. For what mythology has been trying to tell us for centuries is that the hero does not find the treasure by force. The hero finds the treasure because the hero has undergone the journey. And the treasure is, in some mysterious sense, the journey itself. Read the old stories carefully. Read them as I have read them, not as entertainment, but as maps of the human soul. Odysseus does not reach Ithaca by sailing in a straight line. He reaches Ithaca by being battered, transformed, undone, and remade across 10 years of wandering. Had he arrived sooner, he would have arrived as a different man, to a different home. The delay was not a failure of his voyage. The delay was Asterix's voyage. The delay was the very thing that made him Odysseus, rather than just another sailor returning from a war. And so it is with you. The delay is not a punishment. The delay is the preparation. The thing you are waiting for is not late. You are early in the sense that you have not yet finished becoming the person who can fully meet it. And the apparent stillness of your life is not stillness at all. It is the deep, invisible walk of formation. Beneath the surface, where you cannot see, the elements of your future are being arranged. The people you will love have not yet stepped into the light. The work that will fulfill you is being shaped slowly by every experience you are now passing through, including the ones that feel meaningless. The version of you who will look back on this period from the other side will understand. But you, here, now, cannot understand. You can only trust, and trust, you must remember, is the great forgotten virtue of our age. There is a phrase I have often returned to in my own life, drawn from one of the old alchemical texts. Asterisk, festina lente asterisk, make haste slowly. It is a paradox and a true one. There is a way of moving through life that is neither passive nor frantic. A way of being fully engaged with what is in front of you, while also surrendering to the larger rhythm of your own unfolding. The alchemists understood that the great work could not be rushed, but neither could it be neglected. One had to tend the fire every day with attention and devotion, and one had to wait with patience for the transformation to occur in its own time. This is the posture I would commend to you, not the frantic striving that exhausts the soul, not the resigned passivity that lets life slip by, but a kind of devoted waiting, a quiet faith that what is being prepared in you will, when the hour comes, find its complement in the world. I want to tell you about another patient, a man in his late 50s who came to me believing his life was effectively over. He had spent his career in a profession that did not suit him, married a woman he had grown distant from, and now found himself approaching old age with the bitter conviction that he had missed his life. He wept in my office. He said he could feel something inside him that had never been allowed to live, and now it was too late. I asked him to describe this thing. He could not at first. But over weeks and then months, we began to coax it out of the darkness. It was something to do with music. With the cello, specifically, an instrument he had played as a boy and abandoned at his father's insistence. As we worked, this man, 58 years old, balding, weary, began to play again, quietly in private, for no one. And what unfolded in the following years was extraordinary. He did not become a famous musician. He did not abandon his marriage. He did not blow up his life. But something inside him, something that had been waiting for half a century, finally came into the room, and his entire psyche reorganized itself around this small, secret act of devotion. He died many years later with a peace I have rarely seen. Not because he had achieved everything he wanted, but because he had finally let what was alive in him be alive. Was he too late? By the standards of the world, perhaps. By the standards of his soul, he was exactly on time. The cello had been waiting for him, and he, finally, was ready to be found by it. I tell you these things not as theory, but as testimony. I have spent my life as a witness to the inner workings of the human psyche, and I have come away with one conviction that has never wavered. The thing that is meant for you will not be denied to you by time. It can be delayed by your fear. It can be obscured by your unconsciousness. It can be deferred by your refusal to look honestly at yourself. But it cannot be erased by the calendar. The years you spend in apparent waiting are not lost years. They are the years in which the deeper preparation is occurring. They are the years in which the soil of your soul is being turned and tended, even when you cannot see the hand that tends it. But this requires something of you. It requires that you abandon the illusion that you are running out of time. The unconscious does not recognize this illusion. The unconscious knows only that there is a process, and that the process has its own intelligence, and that your task is to cooperate with it, not to dominate it. You are not running out of time, you are running out of resistance. And when the resistance finally gives way, when you can no longer maintain the elaborate defenses that have kept you at a safe distance from your own becoming, then, and only then, will the doors begin to open. The real turning point begins right here, not in the changing of your external circumstances, not in the acquisition of new things. But in the moment when you stop demanding that life prove itself to you on your terms and begin instead to ask what life is trying to bring forth through you, this is the great inversion of the soul's journey. The ego asks, what can I get? The self asks, what am I being asked to become? And it is only the second question that opens the door to asterisk, kairos, asterisk, to the right time, the appointed hour, the meeting of inner readiness with outer arrival. I want to give you something to carry with you from this conversation, a way of holding what we have spoken of. Whenever you feel that life has passed you by, that the door has closed, that you are too late, I want you to ask yourself a different question. Not why has this not arrived, but what in me is still becoming ready? Because something always is. Something is always being prepared. Even in the darkest periods of your life, even in the years that seem to be wasted, even in the long nights when nothing seems to move, something deep within is being formed. The seed in the earth in February does not know that spring is coming, but it is being prepared in the silence for what it cannot yet imagine. And here is the great paradox at the heart of all this. The very ability to wait without bitterness, to trust without certainty, to remain devoted to your own becoming, even when no fruit is visible. This asterisk is asterisk, the readiness. There is no other readiness than this. You do not become ready by accomplishing things. You become ready by allowing the transformation that suffering and time are working in you to be completed. And the moment you can do this, even imperfectly, even in flashes, you have already entered a different relationship with your own life. You have begun to live in asterisk, kairos, asterisk, rather than in asterisk, chronos, asterisk. You have begun to belong to the deeper time. The unconscious will meet you here. It always does. When a person crosses this threshold, when they finally release their grip on the schedule they had imposed on their own existence, something shifts. Dreams begin to come differently. Synchronicities multiply. A strange and quiet confidence enters the soul, not the confidence of having figured things out, but the confidence of having entered into right relationship with the mystery of one's own life. And the things you have been waiting for, the people, the work, the truth, the home, they begin to appear, not because you have summoned them, but because you have, at last, become a vessel that can hold them. There is no need to hurry. There is no need to panic. There is no need to grieve the years that seem to have been lost. They have not been lost. They have been the long preparation of your becoming. And when the hour arrives, and it will arrive, you will look back and understand. You will see that nothing was misplaced. You will see that the soul, in its mysterious and patient wisdom, was arranging everything according to a logic deeper than your ego could grasp. And you will be grateful perhaps for the very delays that once seemed to be your undoing. So let me leave you then with this. The thing you have been waiting for has not forgotten you. It cannot forget you because it is in some sense woven into the structure of your own becoming. It will find you not when you demand it, not when you grow exhausted with longing, but when the version of you that can truly receive it has finally stepped into the room. Your task is not to chase it. Your task is to become that person, quietly, devotedly, in the long, unspectacular work of inner life. The rest, I assure you, will arrange itself. And so I ask you, as I have asked many before you, in the lamplight of long conversations, what are you still becoming even now that you have not yet recognized? What is being prepared in you in this very season of your life that will only reveal itself when its hour has come? Sit with that question. Do not answer it too quickly. Let it work in you the way the alchemists let their materials work in the slow fire of their thanor. For it is questions like this, more than any answer, that begin to open the deeper doors. And it is in that opening, patient, devoted, unhurried, that the right time finally arrives. Not because you have forced it, but because at last you are ready to be found.